being contorted and with your trackers. No, you should be perfectly fine. But welcome back, everybody, here on the program at VRCDJLIVE, and just like any other sort of remote, we always like to bring in guests last minute, and this remote was a little unique just because of the fact that number one, this had been kind of going on. And we've been learning about it. And I would assume that you went through your processes too, with your booth, because we were kind of talking with the project community team from last year, and they were showing last year's venue or map, and they showed Rift as well. And
yes.
And just being able to put something together, like we had to kind of do a lot of crunch time to get this booth ready to have remotes in. Because we had something for VCAT as well, but outside of that, we keep forgetting about all the other things that we can do over there. Like, for example, with your group, and we'll introduce our next guest in a moment. I just want to kind of clear this up. But like being able to post a booth and be like, okay, the booth exists. But there's a quirky little part of it where it's just like, if you were going to be like any sort of convention, you're going to want to do some time there at the booth and sit there and answer questions. And, the booth could talk for itself, but at any given time too, that you'd want to find some time to sit there at the booth. Have you considered that while you do a booth submission?
I really didn't think about the aspect of like sitting there for a long time. I mean, we had a booth last year, and it seemed to work out pretty well. My main focus at least I made ours, was like, hey, how do I convey what we are in a way that makes sense and fits our aesthetic? I'm not sure if you see, like, I made a small tweak to it this year. It's essentially the same booth as last year, but some small tweaks in there just because Poyomi, the old version of Poyomi, was no longer working with the booths this year. For me, it was like, okay, how do I get like the Rift aesthetic in there and kind of show the world while it's still staying under poly budget?
Sure. Yeah, that was one of the big misconceptions. Well, not really a misconception, but when the SDK rolls through, I think a lot of people in World Creators, they go through it and they're just like, oh, there's an allotment that we have to kind of go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't think about like sitting there. I should next time, but maybe I'll put a chair. Just put like a random chair to sit there.
Like a director's chair or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be fun.
But of course,
I like what you got going on here. It's very straightforward and to the point.
Well, we try, especially because we do want it to reflect our studios back home, and of course we want to also have a really nice looking remote booth. And last year we had a remote booth, and it was kind of dinky, but at the same time, when you do work in radio, you work with what you work with, and for us to have a second floor and a nice view this time to be able to showcase all the things here at the festival, of course. And now I get to introduce our guest. And you just kind of rolled in here. I had to ask you the question right away, but welcome back to VRCDJLIVE. We're here on remote here at Project Fest 2025, and we get an opportunity to sit down with all of your favorite people, of course. And this is actually the first time for AztecAngelo of Rift to join us here on the program just for a little while. We'd love to try to get you on the program through the regular Thursday night programs on VRCDJLIVE, but we tend to like to kind of talk to groups when they have something much major coming up with promotion wise, or a big festival or a big show or something like that. I don't want to say, spill some details if you had them, but I know recently you actually had a map remodel. You were working on a couple of new visuals and stuff like that. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so we have a few more visuals in the works. Oops, didn't mean to grab that, but I'll work. A few more in the works. We've just been super busy the past few months with the different music festivals going on between Gear Fest and Gathering, and now I'm starting up on Virtual Fest. So development on that's been a little slow, but we did get a new venue out there inside of the world. It's a pop-up venue. So we have a little landing pad that we've done for an old collaboration with the station. But beyond that collaboration, it's been kind of sitting empty. So we actually just converted that to be a pop-up venue. So we moved a lot of our assets from like the main dance floor and all of our visual effects and shaders and particles. We kind of moved it over there. So it still keeps the same feel, but it's a bit more intimate. It's a bit more like closed in, and it's nice. In terms of the visuals, we added a few more different like lasers recently. Like a fan spread laser, which has kind of been nice. That was purely by accident to have that actually work out as well as it did. I was like, let me just screw around and find out real quick. And yeah, ended up working pretty well. People loved it, so there it stayed.
And I think a lot of people, when they do go to Rift, or people that haven't been to Rift, of course, it's another type of a venue space where we have a lot of DJs performing. And I think to the commoner that's going to Rift for the first time, they're thinking outer space. They're thinking that they're shooting through space. Tell us about the theme about Rift and what you were envisioning for it.
Sure. So when I first made the space, that was after I really kind of became hooked into the VRChat rave scene. Beforehand, I was more or less just a casual player in the game and didn't really have a community to call home. But once I got myself settled in, I was like, you know what? I want to get back to the community, and I loved like the space sci-fi theme, and I wanted to make something that was about there. I didn't want to do like another, box venue or another like grounded in reality venue where you're inside of a building. I want something a little bit more extravagant than that. So I tried to culminate all those things together, and I was like, it'd be really cool if you could like rave out in space, and you're surrounded by these dimensional space-time tears, right? That you could see through. It'd be really neat to like see other dimensions, or in the case of what we're doing with Rift, is like, oh, that's where all the DJ visuals are and whatnot. And so it makes, it's like we're trying to communicate lore-wise through these rifts and kind of learn something through it.
And that's really neat too. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, this is your time. I want to hear about it. That's what I'm saying.
All right. So with this whole lore, like trying to communicate through different rifts, different dimensions, right? I found that to be a really easy way and thematic way to integrate other communities when we do collabs, because there's nothing wrong with collabing with your buddies. Hey, have your guys come over here, we go over there and have a good time. That's great. I mean, it's a good time, but it's very standard. And I feel like when that happens, there's not much cross promotion to the other person's community that's coming into yours. So we do those every once in a while, like the standard collabs. If a community that we're collabing with doesn't have like a home world, but for the communities that do, and we kind of check them out and we think, okay, these are good people, these are good vibes. We offer what's called a Nexus event, and I talk to their world creator, I talk to their world owners, and we coordinate ahead of time, and I'll bring in assets from their world into ours, as if like the rifts have opened up to their dimension and are spilling through into ours. Like I'll grab images of the interior of their club and like put it up into new rifts scattered throughout the world, as if like more reality is breaking down. And then we'll keep a souvenir afterwards. We keep it in our souvenir room with a link to their group, so anyone who comes by can take a look at the souvenir room and be like, oh, that's a neat group. Click, oh, there's a group. I'll give it a try and join it and go to their future events. So that was kind of my way of like advertising other communities while still running our events and kind of cross promoting and showing it some love.
It's a quirky little way of just being like, you have your own thing going on within Rift, but just like, as you were saying with the tears, through sci-fi, that whole concept is very funny to me, just because like, at any given time, because like, listen, I've been through my Doctor Who's, I have Star Wars, not Star Trek, but I feel like Star Trek would also be able to do that too. And the funny thing about space is it's kind of infinite. We still have many, many areas about space that we still haven't identified. And I just think it'd be really quirky if at some point in time, as we identify the future, that scientists somewhere, breaking news, scientists somewhere find the alternate dimension where our alternate selves are over there, and then we get to know those, and then hopefully not have a massive war over who's cooler. But having that type of a concept is very unique in here, because not only, I feel like with a lot of clubs, they're constantly saying, well, ours is better, or ours features this, or ours provides this type of environment. But for you, it's kind of more of just like, you want to be able to bring all the different groups together and be able to showcase the best of everybody while also including everybody. And that's really super unique.
Yeah, it's something, that was one of my main goals. Beyond that, it was like, hey, I wanted to express my creativity and, make sure everyone had a good time. And whatever happens from that, happens from that. And so far, I think we've been decently successful. As the years have gone on, people tend to keep going, oh, I know that place, or like, I had a really good time there. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the festivals here and being able to provide a booth, and again, even last year, maybe you can give us a little bit of a foresight of how things went for you for last year about being able to put up a booth here. But that's just as similar too. It's just like throughout the different mall here, the mall. I would say the malls. There's two. There's the regular Project Fest and then the mall here. But being able to
Yeah.
showcase a lot of the different music club stylings in here, even compared to the clubs and groups that you can be a part of, if you have a specific fandom or maybe you want to do role playing or something like that, there's always something here for everybody. But even with Rift and your unique booth in here, what kind of feedback do you get? Do you just get people that are either interested in the sci-fi aesthetic of it, or do you see a lot more people that are actually genuinely looking for rave venues?
Um, I think it's mainly the aesthetic that kind of draws people in. We're not the only club venue at PJKT this year, last year, and it's only going, growing more and more, which is great to see. But yeah, it seems to be kind of 50-50. There's some people that kind of come into Project Fest and they're just like, huh, I didn't know you could like rave in VR. Like I knew you could go to these other different like RP communities and different like art or photography or videography groups. But like, oh, raves are new. Let's see what you're all about. Others are, a little bit more experienced ravers and like, oh, that's a unique idea. I'd love to check it out. And they'll jump in. Um, and that's obviously the only thing I've heard so far while manning the booth myself. I could definitely see how our booth would be very confusing to someone if I didn't have someone manning it to explain who we were and what we did, beyond just a little plaque we put there. But yeah, it definitely seems a little bit more split.
Yeah, it's super unique too when we have these types of events too. Even just now and even into last year as well, because of the fact that there always seems to be a transition every 2 to 3 years between what's popular and what people are genuinely looking to do here. I know there's still a lot of very grumpy old people that are in VRChat that are just like, oh, why you sit in front of a mirror, or why aren't you doing some world exploring, or trying to find your own tribe or something like that, and having these types of festivals and being able to go to the booths and getting more information about that is super helpful, depending on what you want to do. Even with the podcasting too, like, listen, I'm not saying that I haven't been talking to a lot of the other podcast people, but we sit down and we just kind of like chew the fat a little bit about what the future of podcasting is going to be in VR, as well as the different the showcases of what we want to do on social media. I know YouTube alone is still kind of fighting over what type of content from VRChat is going to be the definitive content that people are going to be seeing in general. You got a lot of negative videos, and you got a lot of people focusing on specific groups that are targeting, all sorts of different things. And a lot of it's kind of nonsense, but at the same time too, within social media, as soon as you hear a piece of information, you either run with it or you question it and you think about it too often. So being able to have Rift around to be able to showcase the better version of the clubs, and the way that we able to socialize and just kind of keep up with that.
Yeah. Another thing too is just like we like to promote and build up, not tear down, right? It's very easy to see that. Obviously, what you're saying with like the YouTube stuff, but also when it comes to social media as well, I feel a lot of it is like, people love their drama. As much as they say, oh, I hate drama, and they try to avoid it, people tend to get sucked up into that, and a lot of the good stuff tends to really doesn't, it doesn't get as much volume as it should. So it's kind of nice to be part of pushing that forward.
Yeah, and I've always known when it came to broadcast media that bad news is always still news. You could always talk about bad news, and regardless if you want to or you want to feed into it, you're still going to hear about it and you're still going to talk about it. Regardless if But the benefit for us as human beings is that we get to determine how that affects our lives and how it affects our emotions about it anyway. There was someone within the Twitch DJ community as of this morning that was complaining about overlapping sets, and during a raid train, the way that it would normally work is that you go on, you perform for the hour, and then you raid into the next person. And
Yep.
what they're having complications with, and we could always have this as an open conversation about it too. I'd love your opinion on it. Is during those raid trains, sometimes 1 hour can't be enough to sustain better analytics if you're going to go for partner or something like that. So in the case of let's just say I have a 3-hour show normally on a Wednesday, that I would start 2 hours before the raid comes in. That way I still get an extra hour with those new people. But they're saying that could be a hindrance because now you're taking those people away from some potential people away from the people that are going to raid you beforehand. And they were having an argument about that and being able to showcase that. But again, you're entitled to an opinion, and but we can still have a nice conversation about it. We can always find a common ground on it. But it's unfortunate for the people in the community because now we got to raise awareness of this one person who is cranky about this, and instead of that, we could continuously talk about it. But still, all in all, the bad news is still kind of bad, and it's still news. But we can decide how we feel about it. We can decide our emotions based on that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion on it, and everyone has different walks of life and different views on different matters. I mean, from my perspective, we don't typically deal with like the Twitch DJ streamers, at least in terms of what we do. We have our own like VRCDJLIVE links that we provide people just so we can avoid the Twitch ads going on during or before the sets. But also, like, we use those links to actually record their sets for them if they want to get them after the fact. And so from that perspective, we don't necessarily deal with it. So take it with a grain of salt that, like, I'm not necessarily inundated with the sphere of the Twitch DJs. But from a club owner's perspective, if you're trying to organize DJs for a raid train, like, I would expect the DJs that I book for that event to be like, hey, this may not be your normal thing, but at least for this event, this is what you're agreeing to. We want to keep the flow consistent. We want to be fair to everyone. Just for tonight, you're going to have to suck it up and like only play for an hour. If you want to play later on that night or you want to make up for it at a different time, then feel free. But like during that time slot, if the whole point of it is to raid train, then please follow the format and be respectful to the other people in the lineup.
Well, I think the way I'm trying to set this up, and I'm doing a little bit of thinking about it, is like, let's just say you have an event going on and it's running parallel to a much larger club or a more popular club, and everyone's going to have attention over there. I would assume that because if you were to have the fewer amount of people, you're saying, oh, that club's taking over all my people, my potential people to come in, and just being a little upset about that. But in reality, it is a life skill and it's a career skill to say, all right, you are now getting thrown into the fray. How do you handle it? And, you could be a baby about it. You could find a more creative way to get more attention or outperform them. Like there should be another avenue that you can take outside of just going on
100%.
social media and lashing out like anybody else would.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a maturity thing as well. Like the older you get, the more you realize you got to pick your battles. You got to learn when to talk and when to keep your mouth shut, and when to take life's issues and how you want to roll with it. I agree with you very much. It's like, hey, we've been there, right? Like, we haven't been the size that we've always been. We started up and, people were doing things on Friday nights and you easily get overshadowed. It's like, okay, well, you got to trust in the fact that, people will go where they want to go regardless, right? You can't control their actions. They have their preferences on the DJs. So how do you cultivate an experience that, hey, maybe they'll want to come to your event next time, or, which DJ can you book that would bring them back for a little while, then see how things have changed in your events, and maybe they'll stick around a bit more. Eventually, you just kind of get to grow organically. It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a similar thing can be said for these DJs that might be complaining, but that's what I've experienced.
It's really low hanging fruit when they're doing their complaining too. They're just like, oh, this isn't working for me. Now it's everyone's problem. And I'm like, all right, buddy, you can calm down a little bit. But and this might
Yeah.
actually be a really good opportunity to segue into this. And I do apologize for those people that have been in chat. My chat window from the last interview didn't get updated in real time, and I was like, why isn't anybody talking? Is nobody here? Is everybody just relaxing? Everyone's sleeping? It's big old storm. That's what's going on. But one of the questions that we were kind of alluding to, especially when it comes to creating worlds at the beginning of it all, I would assume there were many updates when it came to putting together Rift. So what was the thought process of putting it together outside of, making the little time rifts as well? But when you first started, what was the first iteration of you putting together this instance?
Oh man, I mean the first iteration was never public, right? The first 50 iterations were never public. A lot of back end work went in. You start with a gray box, right? You kind of get your sense of scale, your sense of like, okay, does this layout feel natural? Like, how does the progression feel? Like, how does this all fit together? But I mean, Rift itself has always been a living, breathing venue. Every event is a new build. Whether it's something small like changing out the poster wall or filling in more entries into our database of people who've ever contributed via like dancing, DJing, VJ, whatever. Like everyone gets their own entry into the world computer, becomes part of the world's history. So it's always been an ever changing world. But in the very beginning, it was the layout was similar. It's always kind of been there, but the main dance floor has changed a bit in terms of the screens. Like even before the whole like rifts were a thing, I used to have like groups of diamond screens. Actually, I was very inspired when I don't know if you've ever listened or seen a Seven Lions tour, but they were doing their alchemy tour and they had a whole bunch of these like diamond screens that were kind of clustered together and they kind of spread them out across the stage and it looked beautiful. And it was one of my very first like EDM concerts. And I kind of fell in love with it. And I was like, hey, maybe I could try this out. And then, it over time, the theme kind of got finalized and things changed. And here we are today.
All right. And it's very interesting, too, because the ever-changing landscape when it comes to performance spaces. I know earlier when we had Sinrith and Kudo here talking a little bit about the different styles of venues. And I know on the show we talk a little bit about, too, like what is considered the perfect venue. I don't think that there is a perfect venue. I think it's just a flavor. If you like a specific flavor, then you can kind of lean into that a little bit more, which, by the way, helps out really well when it comes to you trying to find your tribe and trying to find the people that you want to hang out with in general, too, because
100%.
I would assume that if you like the club, you're going to find that the people that are there, too, will also like the club and you can hang out with them as well. But even more so, like, with the ever-changing landscape of Unity and Blender and stuff like that, and I know we've been seeing a lot of you doing behind-the-scenes work outside of just running the events, but your light board and you're looking for new integrations. Talk about some of the stuff that you've been seeing so far, especially with the latest lighting update. I forgot what it's called or who made it, but it was
the light volumes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that's going to kind of change the game when it comes to our club venues in here.
Oh man, it's really cool to see. I haven't gotten Rift updated with light volumes yet. I have been waiting a bit more for the material creators like Mochi and Poi and the rest of them to kind of like work out the bugs. Even light volumes themselves have been kind of going through iterative updates, and I didn't want to necessarily adopt it too soon and then have to keep changing it. Especially with my current busy schedule. So I don't only work with Rift. I work with on a couple different other projects. But no, it's awesome to see. The light lines update is so pretty. And it changes it out from like the old light probes, which, if you don't know what you're doing, it can get you some mixed results. Or, if you put them too dense or too sparse, you get, inaccurate results. But the fact that we're getting these really cool updates that cost less in performance is just fantastic. And we have I know you've interviewed them before, Vestro. They're also on my team. They work on shader stuff and programming from behind the scenes for a lot of our back-end systems. So having them cook on stuff has been a godsend. Rift would not be what it is today without them helping me out and like helping the shaders, because that's definitely a weakness of mine that they fill the void with, and I cannot thank them enough for it. But it only creates a more as realistic as you can get for you raving out in space.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
but it increases the production value immensely, and it gives people a chance to experience these, really cool performances and experiences, even on like lower end hardware. So as we go on, it's just a boon to the entire, raving scene. And I'm super excited to see where it goes from here, honestly.
Yeah, and it's again the ever growing. Again, I keep saying the ever growing landscape, but that's kind of what it is. It's community first, and then the landscape second. And when we continue to kind of push the limit in here of the many things that we can create and be creative with it, I feel like it's not even my job to kind of bring it up, but we have to have these moments where we sit down and say, okay. Just keep things in check. Where are we headed in the future? How can we continue to have this forward progression, especially when it comes to, hobby DJs becoming professional DJs. And then somewhere down the line, we're having access to 3D modeling and stuff that like you can make literal games with. And we're in here making these amazing experiences, but for free. Like at the end of the day, we're not getting paid.
Oh yeah.
And we're trying to put stuff like this together. So, understanding these types of concepts are really great, but it always begs to ask the question, where are we headed in the future if we're going to continue? I mean, I would assume that this whole Rift is a good hobby process, but you're learning all of these high-tech tools and meeting up and networking. That's the other part of it, is you're networking with a lot of other
100%.
very fun people to be working with. Where is it going to bend? Where is it going to be the moment of time? I'm not saying that the wheels have already started with a different type of VR application where we're just doing raving stuff. I know on social media there's been some talk about that recently. But even more so, again, too, after we continuously talk with IRL venues and record labels and real-time people doing festivals and stuff, they're starting to learn about what we do. And we have to figure out a way to be serious with what we do and fight up against one of their favorite things to talk a little bit about is money. Out of the obvious of like how much money people are making, and then when they hear about all the passion work that we do in here, and then their second question happens to be, how much are you making? How much are you selling tickets? And we have to do a little sweat moment where we're just like, oh, we forgot about that. It's like, we're just doing it for fun, but at the same time, we have the skills to kind of put this all together. So I think ultimately, and we have some other questions in chat as well, but ultimately I kind of want to see where you think that a lot of this is kind of headed, because we are kind of leaning into a new age of technology. We're learning a lot about 3D applications and new shaders and new plugins and stuff. Even moving forward with the DJ scene as it continuously grows, where do you see all of this going? Tricky question, yeah.
It is. I mean, overall, in terms of like the overall ramp up, right? I think it's really cool because you have people coming in here with different backgrounds. Like I have a bachelor's in game art and design. That's kind of where I came into this and where I was starting from. But I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff in here that I wouldn't ever see at like a more non-AAA studio, right? All of these, different creatives and programmers and creating these new technologies. Again, this is a very much a technology field. It's changing and growing at an exponential rate, and it's inspiring new generations of creatives as well. So seeing that what we have currently now and seeing what they'll make while having the inspiration is just crazy to think about, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, when it comes into the financial aspect of it, this is where I'm torn, right? I love the culture that we've had in VRChat of like, hey, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this because we love it, and it's not about the money. However, for a lot of people that run these things constantly, it's essentially a second job. It's definitely felt like that for me for a couple of years now. It's like the amount of time into it, it's almost like a full-time job on top of my full-time job. I don't care because I love what I'm doing and I want people to have a good experience and have fun. But I know I'm not the same mind of everyone else, in the space. It would be neat to be like, oh yeah, if you want to throw me a couple bucks here and there, great, and then we can distribute that amongst whoever else is performing, and that to take off. In my opinion, you would need a lot of income for anyone to get any sort of substantial financial compensation, right? I mean, with events that I run, I have 5 DJs, and then however many dancers like that come in through ministry, they would all need paid. Any VJs that are specific, they would need paid. I put in a ton of hours, every event as well, not only just running, but preparations. Then there's the back end costs, your VRCDN and everything else, any assets you buy for the world and shaders like that. So it's a hard sell right now, and I think it might be a little too early, but I know a lot of people are kind of talking and trying to get that ball rolling as well. Again, it's kind of hard for me to say one way or another. It would be nice if people got paid, because hey, we're doing stuff that companies outside of the VRC can't seem to pull off. Like, yeah, they can make the venues and they can pull in big names, but like, do they actually fill up? Is it a good experience compared to what we have in here? No. Like, I feel like VRC blows anything that a corporate entity will try to throw from a EDM team out of the water, because we're in it all the time. We know what people want. We know what the experiences are that really make playing in the virtual a reasonable and worthwhile thing. But again, it kind of comes down to values and what's tenable.
Yeah, and all of this too. We always got to try to figure out a good common ground to start on when it comes to what we do at VRChat, especially one of the things that we do love to kind of continue to bring up is the fact that we're constantly involved in here all the time. So we know when something's hot, brand new, compared to what's popular and trending, and even compared to like what will be the latest greatest something as we continue to push that theory. But one of the other things that we have to constantly think a lot about is what the outside looking in looks like as well, because the last time I checked any sort of stats in VRChat land last year, we have about 93,000 average users at any given time. So while this game is active and people are in here, not even just counting the weekends or something like that, 93,000 active users, even comparable to maybe the 20,000 that are active within our immediate community alone. So we do have to showcase a lot about that. But again, a lot of it is based on passion projects. So trying to find the good timeline of how all of this is supposed to get developed, it's supposed to be humbling. At the same time, we're all working very hard to make some really cool stuff and be really proud. But I also believe that, like, even if we are really proud, it's always good to have physical evidence of that, so that way somewhere down the line you can be like, oh, I remember doing this last year, and this is what I was really good at, and this is what we did, even if it's a little quirky that you're a gargoyle and then I'm a girl. But you'll be able to showcase that and be like, wow, this is kind of something that we were actually doing and having a great time with. And it always kind of boils down to, in my opinion, learning. And it kind of makes me think a lot about teachers that go through that entire, like you said, you get the BA in gaming design, you have to start somewhere. And even some teachers have to be the 101 teachers to teach the things that you do. So even even in the case of like, and that's what I find so quirky in here and so interesting, is while everybody's looking for greatness and everybody's trying to proactively work for greatness, it's just a matter of coming in and learning the steps it takes to even get there. Everybody doesn't want to do it quick enough because of, everyone wants to be famous right away or get in the limelight right away, which skills take time, obviously. And within that time, if you're doing it right, depending on how active you are, you'll get to where you need to be in a quick enough amount of time. Same thing goes with the amount of time it takes to put together something great as like a venue. And I was trying to get back on track of where I was headed with this. But normally, we just recently had a conversation with Harmony Soleil on the program yesterday, and we were discussing the idea of being able to submit a demo and working on one particular project that you could, like, let's just say, and I asked her, I said, if you're a producer, if you're a song producer, artist, and you want to send in a demo, what would be the steps to do that? She said that instead of pushing an EP or like 7 songs, push one really good song. And within that one song, if it works, then hopefully you'll get some airtime or get some energies on social media or something like that. In here,
Mhm.
I feel like that's kind of the same type of concept, is that as a creative, when you make a thing, once it's done, you're just like, what do I do now? And you really don't want to just sit on it for like a very long time. But in your mind's eye, in your creative's mind, how long do you think it should be that once you've created something, like let's just say you made a really good iteration of Rift, and everybody knows it, and you want to continue to showcase it? How long, in your mind's eye, do you suggest? Okay, we'll let this sit for a certain amount of time before we start working on another update.
Oh man, that's a bit more relevant than you think. So with the most recent updates that I've been doing to Rift, I would say I'm about 95. Let's be generous. Let's say 90% happy with where it's at right now. Over the past couple of years, while developing it, I've always been like, that can use an update, or like I threw this out there as like a MVP, minimum viable product. Like this will work for now. Let's just update it live as we go along because we have more time in the future. Um, for me, it depends on a few different factors, right? Did you burn out, right, while creating this thing? If you burnt out, okay, yeah, just take some time, recover, get your creative juices back, and then get back on the horse if you feel so inclined. Other people, they finish one project and they're just hungry for other, right? And they just get right back on the horse. For me, take your time for whatever you need to do. Like, it's your life. This is a hobby. A lot of us are not getting paid. Like a lot of, there are some exceptions for like the larger organizations out there that do the grant experience. But for a lot of us here, take it at your own pace. Again, as you were saying, like with these skills that you're building, it'll come with time, right? And everyone has to learn and has the creative drive for their own pace. For me personally, I kind of take it as the feeling goes, right? We try to do what I was talking about earlier about Nexus events once a month. That's just kind of the pace I can go at with my current life and schedule, because it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of coordination with other venue owners and world creators, and making sure that they understand the tools that I give them to essentially capture the interior of their environment. It's a different tool that kind of just scans it and outputs it to a texture. So things like that. Now with Rifts, once I do get to 100% where I'm happy with it, I'm not going to stop doing events there. That's still going to always stay. I'm in this for the long haul. But when it comes to a new venue venture, now that's where I kind of want to go from here as well.
Yeah, that's one of the questions that we had in chat was about creating new venues. And again, it's a really weird scenario in VRChat because everybody wants to stay relevant. Everybody wants to create the next greatest something. But at the same time, it's kind of a revolving door based on what had been relevant that's not relevant anymore, or it doesn't get enough attention. And so it's tough because when you make a thing in here and it really pops off, someone's right behind you with the next latest greatest thing, and then it just kind of sits and develops moss and or mold and just kind of sits here and rots. But at the same time too, we have to find a better way to like revive that idea of saying, hey, this venue is working really well, while the turnaround rate. But I think a lot of people in here also believe, just as we were talking about, that the turnaround rate means you have to create a new venue every season, like every 4 months or something. And like, that shouldn't have to be.
Oh, absolutely not. Not everyone does, right? I've seen plenty of, clubs arise and they keep using the same venue they've been using for years, and it's fine. They might do some small tweaks here and there to make it, updated with the new skills that they had learned along the way. But that's perfectly viable. But yeah, again, once you kind of run your hype, right? Eventually you do have to either change a little bit or evolve. And I'm sure you can change it up too with, like seasonal updates, right? Like, okay, Halloween's around the corner, the Christmas or whatever have you. Birthday parties, you can make it fun in those regards. And they're not too much effort to put in. But also, it comes down to as well, if you create, at least I haven't had this happen yet, but I would like to get to the point to test this theory. if you have multiple worlds or multiple venues, that way you're not wearing out the one that you've had leading up to that point, right? You can just kind of cycle through them a little bit, and that way it still keeps it a little bit more fresh. And if you have a great experience that people love, then they'll be looking forward to it. That's my thought on it, right? Cultivate different experiences with the same general vibe, and people are still going to enjoy it. It's still going to be familiar enough, but you're still getting a different experience.
And that's the tough part about in VRChat too, is just the fact that while there's no perfect venue, creating all these other venues, and it's like right now, even the latter part of 2024, it kind of hit, and I think a lot of people recognize it too, is that recently the whole flavor of drum and bass has been kind of torn apart a little bit as far as the remainder of the genres that people are proactively looking to get into, and that's also including like disco and throwbacks currently that everybody's kind of feeding into because they enjoy that sort of stuff. But I've been to so many different venues and so many different groups and clubs to the point where they're just like, it's not a matter of performing what is popular, but it's more of a what's popular for them at the time. And they're just constantly kind of creating a cone shape of just like, okay, we could really broaden everything, and you literally can have almost anything on anything. And to the point of, even at the beginning of this year, we had a country night. We played country music. Surprised me a lot because there were some people that were interested in country music. But also, too, that fed into, okay, well, what else can we do? Can we do Spanish music, like a salsa or a cumbia or something? Or even like an old school 90s hip hop night. And I think a lot of it's not even just a misconception, but I think it's just an idea of like, what do people want? Like what do they genuinely want to hear? Because they do want to hear everything. And that's such a weird, like, oh, I listen to everything. Well, bet. And then you play something that you haven't listened to before and you're like, okay, well, great. But that also kind of leads into the idea of all the different venues that people are generating anyway, is the fact that like you could have a potential themed venue for a thing, but having all those venues at the same time work out great too. Like everybody can be able to access those for specific theme nights anyway. So we're here with AztecAngelo of Rift on VRCDJLIVE, and we're on remote. We're here in a different location, as you can clearly see. And wow, yeah, I know this is not a green screen. Oh, I just dropped something. That's okay. What did I drop? Was it anything fun? Oh, I'm also sitting in the dark.
But I should probably fix my trackers real quick.
Oh, I knocked over one of my anime girls. That's okay. She survived. It's fine. But of course, we're just kind of, if you guys still have any questions for us here too, it is live and we're here on remote. And yeah, the waifu fell, unfortunately. But we do have some really great questions here from Couture. Couture is watching. Hello, Couture. That's very fancy. They know what's good. Yep. And they were asking too of, what is a community that you haven't worked with yet that you've been kind of wanting to work with recently?
Oh man, Dome, 100%.
Yeah, it's okay. So tell us about Dome.
Slothcast venue.
Yeah.
So Slothcast kind of just broke into the scene with an aesthetic that I love. Again, it's sci-fi based. You kind of go up into this spiral staircase up onto a main platform that's covered by a giant dome, and all of the different trusses that come down, all the support beams, have lights on them, and they're all individually controllable. Like DMX or otherwise, and the tech behind it is really cool too, because you can like make presets and whatnot. But essentially with that dome, there's an iris that can kind of close over top of it, and when it opens back up, you're in a different environment. So it can be space, it can be a cavern, it can be like a fungal world, it can be like this giant, mechanized creature staring down at you with this giant headlamp that's kind of like scans the area. Like really cool stuff. And they do collabs with other people as well. They did the after party for Gathering, and they had a Gathering themed environment. So it fits in so well with like ethos that we've been kind of making with Rift. And it's just really exciting to me. Like, I need to reach out to Sloth. So Sloth, if you're watching, hit me up in the DMs if I don't reach you first. But yeah, I just think that'd be really cool to do, even like for like a 2-day Nexus event, You know, like we bring in some like the domes aspects into Riff for a bit. Now we have our own domed area on our research station, so that could be really fun to play with the idea of and some other features. But like to have dome at our place and then we do a day 2 over at their place and they open up their iris to
Mm.
the space area that surrounds our venue at Rift. I think that could be really fun, and it's again, it's staying with that. Hey, there's another community in our venue to kind of showcase off and promote. So definitely would love to get in touch with Sloth sometime in the near future to get a dome collab going. um let's see who else has been on my list recently. I've been again so bogged down with other festival work. I unfortunately have kind of put these kind of events on the back burner.
It's kind of tough, right? Especially because now that the summertime, we got the Project Fest, and then of course VCAT's around the corner, and it just seems like a summer of festivals.
I will drop a little bit of spoiler for the next one. Googie House has been one that I've always wanted to play around with and have a collab with because all their shader effects are really fun.
Sure.
So we do have something set up with them in one of their community for our next Nexus event. So it's going to be a 3-way Nexus. Beyond that, I've always kind of played with the idea. I don't think it's tenable anymore just because of some souring relations between the community leaders of these two. But I think like Deviate and Kaleidosky at Rift would be really fun. Like Deviate's giant statue and their particle effects, along with Kaleidosky's effects in our space time with the rest of our environment. That'd be a dream collab for me in terms of like making a really cool event that's a unique atmosphere. So yeah, I think those would be like the ones I would love to see on the top of my list when I get more time and if we get the relations squared away. But yeah.
It's great to see the storytellers in our community too, as far as the world creation and the environments that we can be a part of while we're performing. As a DJ, I'm just up there doing my job, I'm just up there spinning the tunes. But there's people that are genuinely looking to like really make the environments a specific way, and being able to showcase that is very unique, especially with all the different types of venues and all the different types of things that are going on in here. Again, Juno Tanuki ended up saying it really well, is that everyone in here has a sense of imagination. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think too much about when they come in here. They're constantly thinking, oh, we're NPCs. We're not real people. We're not performing in front of real people. Because I will say, as someone who is man, everybody has something going on that benefits the entire community, and that's what gets me. That's what gets my gizzards, man. That's what gets me all riled up. Is because like while you're into game design, it's something that I'm not truly passionate about. For me, it's a matter of melding the worlds. It's melding IRL to the virtual world that we got going on here, and then feeding into Twitch's creator culture within the DJ Creator Club there, on how they can be integrated with the work that we do in here, because there have been such a long time that Twitch has been saying that like VRChat is such a sandbox that it's so difficult to like get behind, based on either avatars or other people doing aggressive things, ridiculous things. But now they're starting to kind of take notice. They're kind of taking notice of that we're doing things in here, and not only are we're cooking, but we've got some really cool venues and great communities, and we're just all focused in on the music too. So that's what gets me so riled up about the things that we're doing in here, especially with the different collaborations that you want to do with all these other clubs as well, to be able to just showcase the fun things that we do in here. Really.
Absolutely. I'd be really interested to see as well, like their take or their mindset shift from like what's popular on Twitch right now when it comes to VRChat with all the wiggle streamers. It's not necessarily the most safe environment for younger audiences, but I know like a lot of our music scene is really high up there as well. But I'd be interested to see how that landscape's changing.
Not to do any cross promotion here, but if you guys were not paying any attention to yesterday's stream, we did post our lineup for July of who we're having on the show, and we are going to post the poster tomorrow up on social medias. But next week we're going to be joined by Tupper and Straz of VRChat
Oh,
to
nice.
ask those questions and ask ask them to see how we're doing and get an idea of the things that we can be looking forward to in the next couple of months, as well as things like the capacity limit and what they've been seeing, and honestly too, from some developer streams they have said that like they're not really big fans of the Wiggle streamers, but what can you do? Bad news is still news, as we kind of alliterated to.
Yeah.
We only have a few more minutes left to have you here on the program. I know that Rift just opened their doors, so I feel like you do have to go to work at some point in time. But
Yeah.
we were
sorry, Aqua. I made you open up today.
No, it was funny enough because with Aqua too, like I joined in a couple hours ago and we were running around because our producer was like, we can't find the booth because we were in the main instance. And nobody told us that the second instance was here. So it's like, we got to figure out where our booth is before we do the show. But so we ran into him and he was running around too. So I would assume that he's kind of doing his justice of trying to figure things out. I wanted to get your opinion on it because it's still early, but I know people are going to start like looking into it and investing their time into it. Is how soon is too soon to get holidays, Halloween, and Christmas ready for VRChat coming up by the end of the year?
Ooh, okay. So how soon is it to start preparing or to release?
A little bit of both, because of the fact that we are halfway to the holidays. We only have just a few months until our first holiday. But also too, like Spookality happens and then people are running around with their heads cut off, which is, to the theme, but at the same time too, that people would want to get easily prepared, especially listen, I don't want to know if there's Christmas festivals. I don't even know if there's Halloween festivals that we want to set up for. I know HorrorCon's always a very popular thing that happens every year, but we don't know if it's going to be coming back this year. So even more, what's your headspace looking for Rift when it comes to the holidays coming up?
So when it comes to the holidays, unfortunately, my position is, do I have time to work on it?
Yeah.
No, so, I mean, for this year, I will probably be returning with the Halloween build. I made a Halloween build last year, and that should take very little time to kind of just port over from my old version control branch. So for that, it doesn't take much time ahead of time. Like, I think whenever it gets into the spooky season, if Spookality kicks off and it's a reasonable amount of time to Halloween, then okay, we can kick off the Halloween build a little early. We can have a few different events for Halloween, for theming anyways. Now when it comes to something like Christmas time or Thanksgiving or a lot of these other holidays I haven't made builds for yet, I would need to think about it about like a month ahead of time. Like, okay, what assets do I need? What kind of a layout do I want to have for this? Like, what is performant, and is it going to conflict with any other upgrades I'm doing to the station where it's going to conflict to my version control? Again, kind of technical. I'm sorry for those who may not talk world dev. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So if it's something that already exists, I need to port it over. Whatever the season starts to kick off in VRChat, let's go ahead and push the build for that, right? If it's something that I haven't done yet, then I need preparation time to build and plan and make sure everything is still up to the standard that I set for myself for these events.
Yeah, and it's always fun to think about too. At work today, I saw my first glimpse of July 4th, and obviously, yes, that's literally almost a week away. And I feel like everybody recently, as of this year, has been super busy to even start thinking about a holiday or taking a holiday or even fireworks or, shoving a hot dog down your throat or something. Because that's technically my July 4th. I go to Sonic and I just get a chili cheese dog and just put it down. But at the same time, too, like once that has happened, it's only a matter of time that we start seeing school supplies that people are purchasing. Code Orange at Michael's when they start releasing that sort of stuff. I think Target has already kind of started releasing Christmas stuff, which again, way too early, of course.
Oh, 100%. We don't even hit summertime.
Yeah. So it's like we're just ruining summertime now, but at the same time too, it's just like it's bound to happen. We're gonna start thinking about all these fun things to do in VR, and it takes time to build, and even for people that are genuinely interested of understanding how to do it too. Assets online aren't as easily readily available when it comes to spooky stuff. You kind of have to put together something like that, or even events
Yeah.
to begin with. Yeah.
I will say, as just a standard, because I'm sick and tired of seeing this in stores. Wait until the previous holiday is wrapped up before you start the next one.
Sure.
For all of us in the U.S., Thanksgiving is always getting overshadowed. Or yeah. I mean, the Christmas stuff starts coming out, and you're like, wait, what about? We haven't even finished this one yet. What are you doing? Why are there decorations already for this next one? It's months away. Hello?
Yeah, people want the snow, but then they don't want the cold that comes with the snow. And I'm just like, oh, it's pretty, but at the same time, I mean, there's just no, you can't, you'd be complaining the entire time.
Yeah. Finish your first major holiday first before you go to the next one.
So before we get you on out of here, what are we looking forward to for the rest of the year for Rift outside of the holiday makeover at some point in time? Do you have anything fun that you want to promote?
Sure. So next month we have that three-way Nexus event, as I mentioned before or alluded to. Beyond that, probably more Nexus events down the road for one each month. Let's see. Can I reveal those? Probably not. So more world updates as they come along. Different new visual effects as always, as we tend to create. My team needs a little bit of breathing room, which we unfortunately probably won't get until after Virtual Fest. But I'm excited for when we start taking things off as well. It might be a little ambitious to say a Rift 3.0 is in the works by the end of the year, but I would like to.
Right? You can find a good way to promote that. And when you do promote that, you got to make sure you let us know, and then you can come on the show and we can talk more about it. Because I'm sure people are going to be like, how do you make worlds? And how do I get more involved with 3.0? So anyway, AztecAngelo of Rift, thank you for coming by on VRCDJ Live, and good luck with your event today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Awesome. And everybody else at home, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're just going to kind of wrap things up here at Project Fest, the mall edition. We're at the mall. That's very fun. So stick around, and then actually compile some questions if you have some questions that you want to know about the community or what I do or what we do here. This could be a nice little you and I chat time, and I think it's really nice. So we'll be right back, okay?